Yeah, I would argue because I like to argue.
Y'all underestimated how hard it is to, one, win college football games, and two, transition and take over a program.
Mike Schaefer.
I was trying to kindly tell Mr. Bishop the Vikings have a chance to surprise some people, and I think that they could even win the division.
Mike Schaefer.
It doesn't seem like the kind of book where they would be hooked on meth. That got dark.
Mike Schaefer.
Well, sadly, here's someone I can commiserate with. Our teams have decided not to show up this postseason, which is always fun. I guess the good news is, Schaefer, at least it'll be a short misery. I mean, it's only 2 days, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic that my team is going to win tonight. So,
you're definitely different than John then.
Well, you see, your team does a thing called score, and I know that sounds odd to you because I know your outfield has been really bad this year.
Yeah,
in terms of offense, but you still find ways to like score, which is kind of an important thing in baseball.
Didn't the Cubs score more runs than the Indians all season?
Probably.
The Cubs sweep the Indians in the 4 games that they played. Aren't you coming to the wrong person if you're crying about your offense and your $80 billion Jason Hayward? Don't bring this trash to me. You start Josh Naylor, Delino DeShields Jr., and Tyler Naquin in the outfield. I don't want to hear the Cubs crying about they can't score runs.
Why don't you go kiss a Tennessee Titan, Shay?
I can't because it's not safe right now.
I would otherwise, though.
I love Derrick Henry.
Oh, man.
By the way, the Rays are up 7-0 in the bottom of the second inning.
We've now all of a sudden gone, as by the way, we missed it during the break, but Freddie Freeman knocked in the game-winning run, so the Braves win 1-0 in the longest scoreless extra inning game in postseason baseball history. We've now gone from exciting games to all blowouts here in the afternoon window. So this is kind of that part during the NCAA tournament where you
time to leave the sports bar and go home.
You leave the sports bar or you change sports bars because the games aren't very good right now.
Have you enjoyed this, John, with the 16 teams in the playoffs?
No,
your own team and the their performance aside.
Now I do like. I mean, I love having day sports on,
yeah.
But I just realized that, 2 of the least likable franchises in the history of Major League Baseball, the cheating Astros and the Miami Marlins, are going to eliminate the Central Division champions in baseball this year. So thanks, Rob Manfred. Really appreciate it. But I do like the day games. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's, positive as always. This has to be tough for you. You should have just taken the day off. Let Josh go solo. Clearly you would have just ignored baseball entirely.
That's not true. I bet on it. I bet on
like 4 straight hours of NBA preview with his 3-day-old Lakers shirt.
Okay, come on now. Yeah, we haven't talked about this on the show today.
3-day-old.
This is an old.
Did it really say Bronny Jr. on the back of your Lakers?
Settle down. Come on now. I got this for Christmas. Look, it's even the old logo. It's Adidas.
He keeps pointing out the Adidas
because
logo
they're Nike
like that
now,
matters.
Stibbs.
Christmas isn't in September, Josh.
I can find starter shirts with a Husker logo on it. It doesn't mean it just means
they're
it's not
old.
official.
That means they're old.
No, they
is what
still
it means.
make them.
No, they don't.
You can get a Husker shirt without an Adidas logo on it.
Not a starter one though.
You can get something else.
You can't get a
you
Lakers
get a champion
shirt.
one.
If you can find a new Lakers shirt with an Adidas logo on it, I'll give you a new one that was
Deal.
just made. That was just made.
You have it on right now.
Lies. This is old. I got it for Christmas.
Custom made. Bronny Jr.
Go Lakers. I bet on them. Go Lakers.
Bronny Jr.
Even the Taco Tuesday on the sleeve, which I thought was a little ridiculous.
So much.
Are they who's their sponsor?
Nike.
Wish. That's right.
Yeah.
Who?
It's kind of like an off-brand eBay or something. I don't know.
Wow. How did the Lakers get so cheap?
I'm sure they offered a lot of money. I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who has Bumble?
Clippers.
How appropriate.
Indeed.
All right, that's enough NBA talk.
All right.
Yeah, that's way too much.
So yesterday, the defensive coaches and some players talked to the media yesterday. When asked about Deontay Williams, Travis Fisher said he is a soft-spoken, grown man. You think he's going to be a captain this year?
He could be. I mean, he's like 25 years old, so he's definitely a grown man. I mean, he took a different route to even ending up at a place like Nebraska, and then I don't think he's actually 25. I think he's 23. He'll be 24 during the season, or he's turning 24 right now. So he's an older college football player, and I think that there is a gravitation from some of the guys on Nebraska's younger part of their secondary to a guy like that, and they don't lack for leaders in that secondary. You have DiCaprio Boodle, who's been there for 5 years. Markel Dismuke has been there for 5 years. Cam Taylor-Britt has been there this will be his third season. Braxton Clark, this will be his third season. So it's not like Deontay Williams is a guy that's a grandpa amongst a bunch of youngsters here. But I do think that he carries a little bit of clout with him. I think he carries himself a certain way. His dad played in the NFL. He has a high expectation for himself and what this defense can accomplish. So it wouldn't surprise me if he was a captain. I kind of expect that Cam Taylor-Britt will be. And I don't know if they'll have two guys from the secondary both as captains. But they have a lot of options, actually, on that defensive back end with as much experience as they have back there, which is why I think it's sort of the best part of their defense as they go into this 2020 season.
Schaefer, what's the most interesting position battle for you over the next month?
It's not the starter, but I'm actually really interested to see who the primary backup for Dedrick Mills is going to be.
That was going to be my thing too.
I think Nebraska is going to run the ball a lot. I think they're going to need someone to play off of Dedrick Mills. I'm curious whether it's going to be Sevion Morrison or if it's going to be Marvin Scott III or if it's going to be Ramir Johnson. I'm really curious what's going to happen, with that backup running back spot. And so that it doesn't make sense that would be sort of the position because, of course, outside linebacker, I want to know what's going to happen there. And then nose tackle, you want to know what's going to be going on there. But I just think that with as important as a running game is going to be, and with that being the lone sort of spot on the offense where I don't have a great feel one way or the other, I think that's the route that I would go with.
You think, you believe Nebraska is going to really emphasize the run. So does that equate to fewer passes per game for Adrian Martinez? Because when we did our projections, I think we settled on 29 attempts for Martinez per game, which would be a little bit lower than last year.
Yeah, it's going to depend on game flow, right? I mean, especially early in the season, you're trailing against some of these better teams, you're probably going to have to throw a little bit more. But I would think that, if you're Scott Frost and you're Nebraska and you really did a self-scout like they talked about with Matt Lubick, that you would have sort of understood that through 2 years, the best your offense looks is when you feature that downhill running component, whether it was Divino Zigbo or Dedrick Mills, and then you flow off of that. Because I think that makes Adrian Martinez more dangerous if you got that running game going, and then he's sort of the second option in the running game, and then the third option being the run pass. So I think that you're right. If they get that running game going, I think you could see less overall passing attempts. What would become then interesting to me is like, how much of a split could they end up with running wise? They've had to throw a lot in 2 years because they haven't had a lot of leads. Like, you go through and you look at the games that they've played, they're not, even in sort of the close losses, they're not always generally in position where they can just run. And so, and Frost likes to throw it too. And that's part of it. But I think they should run the ball more this year, but I guess I can't say for sure that they'll definitely have less passing attempts for Martinez or whoever is back there.
Schaefer, speaking of Martinez, watching the games this last weekend, and obviously a very small sample size, but one of the things that I noticed, especially with some of like the upsets, was teams with experience at quarterback really seemed to have a better better game flow, kind of as you were just discussing, and the ones that have either first-year starters or whatever, that they struggled a little bit. I think of Oklahoma's offense, it started grinding things out in the fourth quarter. Mississippi State's offense, even though he's a first-year starter for them, he obviously has a ton of experience. On the other side, LSU struggled with their new starting quarterback. How much does that matter with Adrian Martinez coming back this year with a third year now under his belt?
I think it's big. I mean, the thing that you're probably hoping for if you were Nebraska, you're looking at a year like this, you were building towards 2020. You were building towards this is a point in your roster kind of flips over and you've got more guys that have been with you for more years than they've been with anybody else. You've got Adrian in his third year with 20-plus games under his belt. You've got an offensive line that you've sort of reestablished, and you're hoping at this point your defense would be coming along to the point that it could be a real strength for you. And I one of the reasons why I like Nebraska in the 2020 pandemic season, whether it was a 10-game schedule or the 8-game schedule, is they have two important things. They have experience where it matters, and they actually have a lot of depth where it also matters. And those are going to be important things as you try to get through a season in which, of course, you know, you don't know if you could be without key players at certain times. You're always going to have injuries. And one of the things that'll be interesting to me, and I don't know, I haven't watched enough college. Josh and John are going to know this more than I would, but injuries have been very prevalent in the NFL. I'm curious if we've seen it as much in college, if guys have been getting banged up or have to be replaced as much as seemingly in the NFL. And some of that is the lack of lead time and the ramp up having to be pacing, at a quicker pace than your sort of leisurely stroll through the summer into fall camp, where you have those kind of 8 weeks, really, if you think about it, for them to get ready. And so that's going to be something else where their depth could really matter. But I like Adrian Martinez. I'll probably go down on that sinking ship if it is to sink. But I believe there's a lot of talent there. And I think this is a kind of year where, having a guy like that versus trying to break in a Luke McCaffrey without the non-conference games, without the run-up, could be relatively difficult. But, of course, if you're Nebraska and Adrian starts off slow again, you don't have that luxury. You have to be willing to go to McCaffrey.
You said, Schaefer, at the beginning of that answer that they have, depth at positions, or experience rather, at positions where it really matters. Do you think that the positions that matter this season, with everything going on, is it the same as the ones where you want the experience back in normal years as well, whether it's quarterback, offensive line, etc.?
Yeah, I think it's those two. I think it's quarterback and it's offensive line. On defense, you want experience at all three levels, and they have that. A little less so on the defensive line, but I'm kind of excited about these guys on their defensive line. I mean, I think Jordan Riley could be very helpful for him. I think Ben Stilley's best football can still happen. He had a great 2017, and then since moving to defensive end has been up and down sometimes, but I think he's kind of shown a lot of leadership in the offseason, standing up for his teammates, standing up for their beliefs. And I think that he's earned a lot of respect inside that program. And so, you have other guys on that defensive line. Ty Robinson could be a breakout player. We've heard a lot about Keem Green, where he might be at with things. Mosai Newsome is someone that doesn't get a lot of run, but they like out of that 2019 class. You have the linebackers. You have two returning middle linebackers that played a ton for you in Colin Miller and Will Honus. And that allows you to bring Nick Henrich along slowly. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to have a lot of say in what happens at that middle linebacker spot. Outside linebackers, the one thing, you have experience, but they haven't been good. So how valuable is that experience? I mean, you have Caleb Tanner, which you don't know what you're going to get from. Garrett Nelson had an okay freshman year, but you're hoping for a pretty nice jump as a sophomore. JoJo Domann has flashes of playmaking ability, and at other times you have the coaches talking about how he's not in the right spot where he needs to be. And then you're mixing in a bunch of younger guys with it. So they have depth. And they have experience. But at the same time, they haven't stacked up a bunch of wins. So you could make that counter to how much does experience matter when it hasn't been winning football the last 2 years.
And Schaefer, you've got depth and you've got experience, and you also have an oddity in that no one's eligibility is going to count. So you've got an influx of a bunch of young players, a bunch of young freshmen. You don't have to count games anymore. You don't have to worry about the 4-game redshirt rule, which last year seemed to paralyze this coaching staff at times when it came to making player decisions. I wonder how much that's going to factor into playing time this year, knowing that, hey, we can bring in some of these freshmen. We're not going to have to worry about the 4-game redshirt rule, and they'll be in the same spot next year.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most interesting conversations that we get to have in the media right now is like, oh, Nebraska gets to experiment with some different things and they get to do some different things. And, we'll see if they play some more freshmen. But if there's one truism to me about football, it's that coaches are generally conservative, and it doesn't seem likely that they're going to use this, even though there's eligibility won't go anywhere. I don't know if it means that Logan Smothers is going to play, snaps in any meaningful time, or if they're more likely to use a freshman just to get them in for one series a game, all 8 games. I just don't know if coaches are going to get out of that mentality of now you get to use more of these guys. I'm not sure that they're going to be very experimental with it, because they're still always in that mindset of we have to do what absolutely is going to give us the best chance to win. And even if you think of this year as a run-up for 2021, I don't know if coaches would see it that way, and especially at a program that needs to stack wins sooner than later. I really don't know how many of those freshmen outside of the best ones are really going to see that much playing time.
Shay, speaking of teams that need to stack wins, we're just about to preview Purdue. We're going through the schedule week by week, and this is such a unique program in where it sits in the Big Ten right now, and kind of looking at the division broadly. Do you have a read on where you think this division is going to go? Is the easy thing just to go chalk and expect Wisconsin to win the division again? Or because of everything that's happened, because of the weird offseason, and really also because of some programs maybe not being prepared for the season to return, do you think that we could see some screwy things happen in a different type champ by the time December rolls around?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have a great read on this division at all. I think that Wisconsin is sort of your nominal favorite, but at the same time, I'm really curious what life is like post Jonathan Taylor. I just don't know if they're going to be the well-oiled machine that they were at times last year. I don't really know if anybody in the Big Ten West is. That's kind of what makes it a little bit fun this year. Is there's sort of a mindset that I think that could be out there where it's, why not Nebraska? What compelling reason? We haven't seen it before, but there's enough flaws with all these other teams. There's enough people that have exited the division. You have Nate Stanley has gone for Iowa. They've lost some of their other top guys that went high in the NFL draft. Minnesota lost some really key players. Can they do it again? And especially, can they do it again when everybody's going to be prepared for Minnesota and not looking past them? You have Wisconsin, like I said, without Jonathan Taylor, and yes, they've done a nice job reloading. But can they really continue to do that? Or are we going to see a different version of Wisconsin? I mean, they lost Quintez Cephas. They lost some other guys on that team. I don't know. I think, again, Wisconsin's sort of the favorite, and gun to the head, that's who I would pick to win the West. But I think that we could see a really jumbled year where a lot of teams kind of beat each other, because they're all sort of I think it's a pretty mediocre group, to be honest.
Honestly, outside of Ohio State and then followed by Penn State, you wonder if there's anything,
certainty,
that is certain beyond those two teams.
Yeah, I look, the Big Ten is at a weird year. It would have been more fun to see a full season to give them a chance to sort of strengthen their resumes and go into conference play with a little steam. But instead, you're getting only conference play. And I think you're going to see, when we get to December, a lot of 4-3s and 3-4s going into that final week, because I think it's pretty muddled in the middle. And I think Nebraska's closer to that middle than what they have been in previous years.
Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7. So you feel confident tonight that the Tribe can force a game 3?
I do. I just don't think there's any way that a team can lose 10 straight elimination games. That's what's at stake for the Indians at this point. I think the last time they won an elimination game would have been somewhere around 1998. So, when you're looking at that kind of statistic, clearly the baseball gods are going to reward them. And I expect Carlos Carrasco to come out and throw well. They're taking on Masahiro Tanaka. They haven't hit him well in the past, but why not tonight? Why not tonight, John?
Why not tonight?
That's what Twins fans were saying over the last 2 days. Why not today, the day that we finally win a playoff baseball game?
And look, Goldschmidt just hit a home run for the Cardinals. This is going to be a great playoff. All the teams I hate are going to be in the.
John is going to watch the NBA tonight.
I'm going to go walk the dog tonight. That's what I'm
for 4 hours.
I'm probably going to rewatch a replay of last night's debate, because there's nothing more American than debates.
Well, that is true. And by the way, Dumb Debates is coming up in 30 minutes.
That's true.
Did they sponsor last night too?
They should have. You mentioned, losing 10 straight elimination games, or
don't bring up 2016 again.
What you said 10 straight elimination games, right?
Yeah, it would be if they lose tonight. Yeah.
Right. Well, Dusty Baker just broke his own personal 10 straight clinching games losing streak.
I have mixed feelings on it. I hate the Trastros, but I really like Dusty Baker. I think he's one of the great all-time managers in baseball. I think that he gets railroaded by the analytics community because they didn't value what Dusty Baker basically has done all of his career, which is go somewhere and be a positive clubhouse presence and pull wins out of places where he wasn't always supposed to. Now they don't go win in the postseason, but that's a kind of common thread for a lot of the darlings in the analytical community, the A's, the Indians, the Rays. None of them have World Series titles. Neither does Dusty Baker. So why do we value one so much more than the other?
I don't know. That is a great question. I would agree with you on Dusty. I like Dusty. I never harbored any ill will when he was managing the Cubs. I mean, they should have went to the World Series, and who did they lose to? The goddamn Marlins.
Whoa. He said dang. Okay.
I said dang.
All right.
I said dang.
Barely.
All right.
Hate them.
Dang.
Hate everything.
Thanks, Schaefer.
All right, Schaefer.
Bye, Schaefer.
Thank you.
All right. Well, good luck with John. Keep the blood pressure down. You're at an age where you don't want it to spike too much. Just try to.
I'm up here. I'm already gone. I'm already looking forward to this Sunday when the Rams face the Giants.
All right. Well, there you go. At least you get to look forward to Sundays.
That's true.
More than I can say.
Getting real close to that 0-5, boys.
You're going to be right.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're going to be right.
Uh-huh.
All right. Shape, take care.
All right, gentlemen. Have a
There
good
he
Schaefer.
is, Mike Schaefer of Husker 24/7. Oh, good start here for the Padres.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate
Should we
it.
talk Purdue?
Yeah,
Let's talk
do.
Purdue.
Yeah.
Let's get on the plane,
Awesome.
crash it into the side of a mountain.
Oh, no. Would be very 2020 of us.
But before we do that, we'll land somewhere in West Lafayette for the Skyriders tour.
Lafayette.
As we have Tom Dienhart of Gold and Black, the Rivals site, covering Purdue, as we cover the Huskers in reverse order on the schedule
Mhm.
on 1620 The Zone.